Where would I buy, if I had to, in Toowoomba, Queensland? Now, this is one of my favourite locations. We've had a lot of success here over the last 3 or so years across Ripehouse Advisory. We've bought actually over 100 properties here. For many clients have had 40, 30, 40, even up to 50% capital growth in the first 12 months. Obviously, when an area has this amount of capital growth, it's starting to bring into question, is it set to continue? Remember, what is the biggest handbrake on future performance? It's previous performance. The higher prices are in an area, the less people can afford to buy there or invest there. So as prices grow and have these really strong uplifts in value, it does bring risk into the equation around, is it set to continue? So I'm not saying, let's go out and buy in Toowoomba. I'm saying, if we had to, where would we buy? So let's go over here to Picki, picki.com.au, Toowoomba. We'll look at the local government area overall. Now, firstly, when we do our local government area analysis, it is a longer term analysis. Still, Toowoomba is in the top 85% of all locations. We actually have very low new home construction when compared to population growth because, you know, the building industry in Queensland is a bit of a basket case at the moment. You have a lot of good lifestyle factors in Toowoomba. It is seen as a nice cafe. It's a large, nicely considered regional centre. Lots of, greenery, reasonable climate, lots of gardens and, positive aspects that do make it a pleasant place to live. It is a big town or a big regional, not a small capital. So think of it not in terms of as a small Sydney, it is a big regional centre. Okay, so it is a different feel to your Sydneys and your Melbournes and your Brisbanes, even down here in Hobart, which is a similar sized city. Employment, very diverse. Income growth is excellent, outstanding for a regional centre. Even when you consider capital cities, this is still high, but when you consider it as a regional, it is extremely high. Lots of people moving here with good jobs to go to. Lifestyle factors, it is a really nice place to live. It is green, good climate, lots of nice positive aspects locally, a good place to raise a family, etc. Think of places like, it's not Newcastle, it's probably more like the Blue Mountains of Sydney or the Bendigos, the Ballarats around Victoria, around Melbourne, not really the Geelongs, more the Bendigo, the Ballarats. When you're thinking population growth, new projects, it is very diverse, great diversified employment. And I know, so let's go in here to the local factors. Look, it does have the big ticket items. It's a wonderful big shopping centre that's been built there in the last few years. Not much else, to be perfectly frank. It doesn't have the big high rises. I think the tallest building's 4 levels in Toowoomba. But it does have a beautiful modern shopping centre. A lot of money being spent on that shopping precinct. The rest of the CBD does drop off quite quickly, but you do have your larger shops, shopping centres, Bunnings and those types of things within the area. The new project list, what I like about Toowoomba is it is very diversified. This is long-term diversity. You've got industrial, you've got solar energy, you do have the inland rail, which will improve and help things through Toowoomba. You've got spending in retail, mining, agriculture, but you also have the large Toowoomba-based hospital upgrades. They are in final stages of approval. Overall, this is a very strong buy, but as this continues, if it is approved, this is really going to change the landscape of Toowoomba. It's a very large project. The individual suburbs, if I was to buy here, so when we were buying a lot of properties with clients, we were looking in and around the mid-socio of this type of city. You have to remember a place the size of Toowoomba, around 200,000 people, it does drop off quite quickly. You generally only have 3 or 4 layers of suburbs, okay? So think of it like an onion. You have the CBD as the core driver of utility. Sometimes with these smaller centres, you have, large lifestyle factors which do draw higher prices. You do see that with the range in Toowoomba up on the hill, with an aspect looking out towards, Brisbane, higher price points. So a lot of the more expensive homes in Toowoomba are actually on the outside of the city. But you do have the CBD as a very strong driver of capital growth, of utility, of demand. So let's dive into Wilsonton, close to the amenities, lower price point, mid-socio. these are the types of suburbs that we do generally like to see sucking up. Your 4s and your 5s hopefully turning into a 6 or a 7 out of 10. So we're here in Wilsonton Heights. It was one of those suburbs in the green on the right-hand side that is in the buying window. It is one of the highest rated suburbs from a data perspective in Toowoomba. So where would I buy if I had to? This suburb would be high up on my list. Now, when we were buying properties here in 2020, 2021, we were going through Wilsonton Heights, Newtown, down to Harristown, and down to Wilsonton. So this is the sort of the middle heartland, the middle socio heartland of Toowoomba. A lot of the locals have stigma attached to some of these areas. Be careful going over to Harlaxton. You have to be careful of some of the individual streets, but there is a lot of potential here. This is an area that seems to, with population pressure, great jobs and employment. These are the types of middle class that do improve. We can't write them off. One thing that I really like about this suburb is it's higher than average yield. So that means that either capital growth has occurred and then rents have kept pace with the capital growth, so yields have been retained, or prices have been stable and rents have been growing really strongly, and therefore yields are higher than its peers. So compared to the suburbs in and around this is still 6% yield, which is very high for Toowoomba. This is the sort of yield that we would have expected 2 or 3 years ago in most of Toowoomba, 5.5%, 6%. Now it's very rare because we have had such sustained high capital growth. If I was to be, buying in this suburb, which street level areas should we be focusing on? So we have to be careful, not many owner-occupiers in this suburb. I generally like to see at least 2/3 owner-occupiers. We've really only got the one street area that is sort of close to where I'll be acceptable. This northwest pocket at 60%. We can make that work, guys, if everything else works okay. 96% houses, that's great. 400,000 is what we'd expect to pay in this street pocket. So I am talking about this one here, guys. Okay. The rental price, 400, yield 5.2, which is a little bit less than average. I like to find my street areas with a little bit higher than average yield. And is there public housing? So there is public housing across this entire suburb. Okay, that's a little bit of a concern to me. We can minimise that risk if we are investing in certain streets. This 7.9% public housing, that's probably my street pocket that I would be focusing in my attention if I had to in this suburb. Hopefully that's beneficial here, guys. Love your feedback. Jump into the comments below. Let's keep the conversation going.